Skipity doopa dibbity boopa doobity doobity doop dee doo dibbity doopity deep. Hello everyone, my name's Stonesy Boy and welcome back to Reading with Stonesy. Today we are reading the final pages of the book, going from 184 all the way to 203, making it 19 pages, chapter 34 to 37. So, without further ado, let me lay back in my chair here, kick my legs up, and let's begin. Chapter 34. They followed Logan. Bobby tried to listen and showed them to the grounds, but her mind was racing. She paid attention, however, when Logan showed him to his menagerie of turtles. For breeding purposes, he explained. I don't know why, but zombies will go out of their way to stomp at turtle eggs, Logan chuckled. So the eggs come in handy when you need to control which way a zombie's gonna go. Helps you hurt the horde, you could say. By this point, Bobby was nearly vibrating with anger. The more time she spent with Logan, the more her suspicions about him seeing the irrefutable. As she was right, they were dealing with a monster more terrifying than any zombie. Logan led them through the building up to another staircase, at last coming to a grand platform that stood across the fortress, and just below the pinnacle of the mountain. A great obsidian throne stood nearby, nestled in the crags. In the east, Bobby gasped at the sight of the sun rising over the ocean. Nice view, right? Said Bo. He clambered on top of the oversized blackstone throne. Fit for a king, I'd say. Is that what you're up to here? Asked Ben. King of the zombies? But Logan waved his hand dismissively. The zombies are just a tool, a means to an end. The goal is the same as ways of loot. Speaking of loot, said Ben, there are a few things missing from the chest, some emeralds, some gold. Logan fiddled with the red-tipped scepter and then began to build into the wall beside her throne. I'm rich now. I'm sure I can have Ben, too, scrounge up some emeralds for you. Make it 8 ingots of gold and we'll call it even, said Ben. And then we can all get out of your hair and make it get back to the counting your riches. Hold on, said Logan. You haven't heard my pitch yet. Enough, said Bobby. I'm sick of playing games, of more humoring you. He lifted the diamond pickaxe Ben had given her, wielding it like a weapon. Ben stepped in front of her to try to calm her down. She ignored him, keeping her eyes on Logan and sustaining his throne. Logan, did you have anything to do with what happened in Plaintown? Logan held up his hand. Guilty as charged, he said guiltily. Plaintown was our trial run. What does that mean? Bobby snarled. Sensing her distress, Johnny snarled too. Then Logan answered. He addressed Ben against her. You remember what it was like, Benny? Long hours spent in the dark, digging at random for loot, then happening on a village by chance and hopping. That's something worth trading for or taking? Logan swept his arms out. What we needed was a system, a way to organize our plundering. It was never about plundering for me, Ben argued. Right, sure, Logan said. You can fool yourself with your little friend here, Ben, but you can't fool me. I know what payday as much as I do. His visage darkened. And I figured the ultimate payday, Ben, when I found a way to convert villages into a sort of farm for iron and make them work for me. Instead of just taking up space, it's actually sort of ingenious, he grinned. I've got his army of zombies, right? I send them to a village using tunnels so they sneak right past the defenses. The zombies cause a panic, and then the Ravagers step in and do what we do. Bobby felt sick. She swayed at her feet. She already suspected it, but now confession, Logan had caused the zombie siege and wiped out the village. She'd done it on purpose. How could you, she breathed. How could you do something so brilliant, Ben said. Ben, Bobby said, appalled. He turned to her. I'm sorry, Bobby, but you gotta admit, it's a clever way of doing things. Set aside morality for a minute, he said. Put your personal feelings away and look at the objectively. I can't do that, she said. Our mortality is a part of us, Ben. You can't just switch off, or could he? Bobby's heart sank. He'd been sure that Ben was better than this. Part of her had known the truth, though, hadn't she? That why she hadn't told him he was lost in emeralds? I'm expanding, Ben, continued Logan. The truth is, the operation's got a little big, and the Ravagers could use a little more help. Iron farms are more the wave of the future, and I intend to set up farms in interesting clients overseas. I could use someone like you on my team, Logan reveled Ben, with a very serious look, leaning forward to the obsidian phone. I need to know I can trust you, though. Of course you can trust me, said Ben. Not as long as you're with her, said Logan. He ran his hand along the scepter. You don't blame me. I've seen nothing but obstacle. She's been the one who's been stubborn. If he thought Bobby had been stubborn so far, he hadn't seen anything yet. He took a step forward, really pull him right off the throne of his. Then she noticed something. The scepter beside the throne was very familiar. It looked like the switch they'd seen in the tunnel. What had Ben called it? Ben, is that? Bobby's question died at her lips. As she had to turn toward her friend, she saw something she never thought she'd see. Ben was aiming an arrow at her. Ben, she said, what are you doing? I'm sorry, Bobby, he said. Really, it's been fun, but I just can't refuse. I don't do this, Ben, Bobby pleaded. I know you know things that he's friend, but you aren't blind. But you can see how cruel he is, can't you? She shook her head. Maybe you think you deserve his cruelty. Maybe you think you can fix him. I don't know. She leveled with a steely look. But I'm telling you that you deserve better than this. What are you better than this? And that together, you and me, she smiled, we can stop everything that's happening. here. We can make a world better instead of just trying to make the richest, fiercest survivor. I'm sorry, Bobby. I promise you. This isn't personal, Ben assured her, and pulling the bowstring taut. Well, I guess this is a little personal. You did shoot me with an arrow the first time we met. Ben, think about this. But Ben didn't stop to think. He let the arrow fly. It struck Bobby in the shoulder, knocking her back. She dropped Johnny's lead. She tried to keep her balance, but she fell off the edge of the cliff, and she didn't stop falling until she splashed into the ocean. Chapter 35. When Bobby opened her eyes, she was deep underwater. This is not what she meant when she said she wanted to see the ocean. Her heart felt a chaotic whirl of emotion. She was angry and confused. She was hurt in more ways than one. But she was in awe, too, at the sight that greeted her. An alien landscape spread below her, like a desert covered in a hazy blue fog, with long swaying strands of sparse grass and little green tubes that follow an inner light. A school of colorful fish swam up to her, curious, and then she reached out to touch one of them and darted away. One fish riddled with spines and started all the movement, puffed up in epic proportions. In the distance, a multi-armed squid drifted lazily. It looked like it was flying. Bobby forgot her anger and her worry. The world was so big, but it didn't make her feel small. It made her feel like there were so many possibilities for her and that there were stars in the sky. But every possible future started getting Johnny back. She wouldn't let Logan and Ben use her brother as a tool to hurt others. Bobby gritted her teeth, pulling Ben's arrow from her shoulder. She decided then and there that she'd make them eat the stupid glowing sword of his. She'd regret the combat lessons he'd given her, and that was for certain. She began swimming for the surface, but then thought of it. Logan and Ben probably assumed she was dead, and why disabuse them of that? She didn't seem to have anything trouble holding her breath, so she took a moment to consider her options. What if she dug her way to safety? Bobby swam to sheer rock wall and started digging, and the water slowed her swing somewhat, but all the same the diamond pickaxe made short work of the stone. She carved a narrow tunnel forward, and then up. By the time she felt the need to take a breath, there was out of water and lost, somewhere, deep underground. But she was alive, and she had a mission. I'm coming for you, Johnny, she said, and if I have to go through a tree to get you, then that's what I'll do. It was late morning by the time she made it to the surface. Rather than rush in to save Johnny, which was desperately wanted to do, she decided to play it smart. Ben told her that the battles were won in intelligence, not swords. Just as she'd watch and learn the attack patterns of creepers, zombies, and slime, she would benefit from watching Logan's fortress at a distance, striking only when the moment was right. At dusk, she finally saw what she'd been waiting for. The gate opened and Logan's cronies appeared, leaving on their nightly errand to check on Logan's traps and round up any zombies they could find. As soon as they were out of sight, Bobby made her move, staying out of view in the main gate, hacking her way into the fortress from the far side of the mountain. As she stalked the Spartan hallways of the Logan's fortress, she took a grim pleasure in the irony. This time, she was invading his home, and she helped herself to all his stuff. She found a chest in an empty bedroom. It was booby-trapped. When taught her to look for, she avoided the trap, taking the TNT that had been rigged to blow, as well as the various valuables she found inside the chest. She didn't even have to use for most of it, but depriving Logan was reason enough. After a few more rooms, a few more booby-trapped chests, Bobby found Ben, sleeping silently by one of many identical bedrooms. She closed the door behind her and kicked him out of the bed. Slime balls, he said, rubbing his eyes from sleep. And then, to Bobby's surprise, he smiled. Thank goodness, he said. I spent half the day looking for you, Bobby glared at him. He fidgeted nervously. How are you? You look good. All that iron really brings out the steely resolve in your eyes. Save it, said Bobby, and she shoved her sword under his chin. The only thing I want to hear from you is where I can find Johnny. Ben raised his arms and looked nervously at the bait. He's perfectly safe. He's in a pit with all the other zombies. He's safe? Bobby said, unamused. Surrounded by zombies. They won't hurt him. I watched them to be sure. He only seems to fight other zombies when you're endangered by them. Ben swallowed hard. That's why I shot you. It was the only way I could have saved you both. My hero, Bobby said. Honest, didn't you see the redstone torch? The one by Logan's throne? The one hand on her blade, gently pushing it away. We're on a trap door the whole time. You, me, and Johnny. If I had played along, and if I hadn't instead done everything he wanted, we would have been tumbled down into that pit. So instead of falling in a zombie pit together, I took surprise swim all by myself, Bobby said. I'm lucky I didn't drown. It wasn't luck, Ben said. Didn't you notice how long you were able to stay underwater without breathing? Didn't you think that was weird? Bobby narrowed her eyes. What are you getting at? I shot you, yes, he said. But I shot you with one of my special arrows. It was tipped with a potion of water breathing. Then she shook his head. I hated to do it, but I knew you'd be okay. And now, because of that, Logan trusts me. I can sabotage him from the inside. Bobby finally lowered her sword. So he bought it? Yes, said Ben. Unfortunately, so did Johnny. Your brother didn't take kindly to a low display, so he ended up with a pit, and I ended up having breakfast with Logan. Ben gazed off with a wistful, cake for breakfast. You would have loved it, I'm sure. The conversation was dreadful, though. He's done here, Bobby. He wiped away every village within 50,000 blocks. Ben clambered to his feet. He's taking his army and marching east. East, echoed Bobby. But east of here is the ocean, Bobby finished. He's going off the edge of the map. He's going to find a whole new continent to plunder. The world was so big, Bobby remembered, full of mystery and adventure, and it should stay that way. We have to stop him, she said. Yeah, Ben said. That's what I've been trying to figure out. The obvious solution is to destroy his army of zombies, but how to do that, I don't know.
Would this help? Bobby asked, and she held him one of her recently acquired blocks of TNT. Careful with that, said Ben. He flinched, and then he made a smile across his face. All those zombies in one place, minecarts that lead right to him, and some TNT? He nodded. I could work with that, but you'll have to get Johnny out of there. We'll need time to it all perfectly. Wait a minute, said Bobby. So my part of the plan is to walk into a pit full of hundreds of zombies in the moments where the whole place blows up and find one zombie we want safe? Yeah, it'll be easy to find, said Ben. He's the shortest zombie there by far. That actually makes him harder to spot, Bobby argued. And I'll stick to the blue out like a blue axolotl. If not, if you're invisible, Bobby grinned. You'll have potions of invisibility? Well, said Ben, sort of. He held up an arrow. Bobby's smile fell away. And you get out of alive, we have to brew some normal potions. Chapter 36. Bobby had 5 arrows tipped with invisibility plus. That meant she had exactly 5 minutes of invisibility. 5 minutes to find her favorite zombie in the sea of hundreds. 5 minutes before the explosion started, and Logan's arms was reduced to ashes and rotten flesh. Bobby removed her iron armor, necessarily risking an invisibility effect to work, and waited at the top of Logan's platform. From there, she would have perfect view of the moment the sun peaked above the horizon. That would be a signal to begin. In the meantime, Bobby turned to consider Logan's massive obsidian throne. It was an ugly thing, and it captured a despotic spirit almost too well. And had Ben said that obsidian was useful, she pulled out a diamond pickaxe he'd lent her, and she smiled. Logan's throne would make a fine souvenir. She stashed the last piece of obsidian in her inventory, and the sun appeared. It was time. Bobby drank a potion. Ben had snuck down to the castle's courtyard and brewed it just for her. And then she activated a redstone torch. The powder dropped out from beneath her, and a potion of slow falling she just guzzled ensured the gentle descent to the pit below. As she drifted lower, the crushed zombie drew near. Bobby couldn't help but thinking of Ben's dramatic story. Just as he'd been stuck in the web, sinking over ever so slowly towards certain death, Bobby found her anxiety growing as she neared the end of the descent. A moment before she touched down, she prickled herself with an arrow, disappearing from view. The monstrous mobs were wandering aimlessly, bouncing off the walls and into each other, waiting for the moment when Logan would send them loose against the unsuspecting world. They didn't know what she was there. A part of her was feared they'd smell her, sense her somehow, but she was safe to move among them, and she moved quickly and carefully, not wanting to touch them, but needing to cover a lot of ground. But she was looking for Johnny. It wasn't long before she found his familiar face. It was Johnny's face. Oh, it wasn't Johnny's face, however. Cleric Avery? For a moment, Bobby forgot that she was in mortal danger. A shock of seeing her old neighbor was enough to make her blurt out his name, alerting them momentarily to her presence, but then turning toward her, seeing only empty air. Cleric Avery continued on their way. That was lucky, because Cleric Avery was a zombie. It was all twisted sort of senses of Bobby. The tunnels leading from the pit, the ones that ran beneath villages, including her own. They weren't just to get zombies into the villages, they were to get zombies out, too. That's how Logan was growing his army so much, and a handful of capable zombies, but once the zombies had infected villagers, their numbers grew, and the more villagers they attacked, the larger the force became. She saw Farmer Breyer in the crowd, too. The entire village was there. Her neighbors, her friends, her parents, all constricted into Logan's vile service, forced into the bidding of the boy who'd betrayed them. Bobby's invisibility wore off. Just quick as lightning, she pricked herself with a new arrow. 1 minute and was already gone. By 4 more minutes, Ben's explosions would destroy Logan's army, including everyone Bobby had ever known. Chapter 37. Bobby had to act fast if she was going to thwart Ben's plan. There was no way she could reach them in time. The explosions. She could stop the explosions. Probably. Maybe. There's 3 tunnels leading to the pit. 3 directions in which Ben was to be spending minecarts full of TNT. This plan had been started at the south tunnel and worked its way around to the north. So that's where Bobby had to start too. She ran as fast as she could, getting dangerously close to zombies as she went. They startled and growled when she got too close, suspicious of an intruder was among them, and she remained invisible and on the move with their grasping arms found only empty air. It was reckless, but what choice did she have? She used the 3rd arrow. She had 3 minutes left to save them all. In the othermost tunnel, she paused only a moment before deciding the course of action. Stone wouldn't be enough to block the blast created by an oncoming minecart, but obsidian would be strong enough to do the job. She blocked off the tunnel, then ran toward the next one. Arrow 4 of 5 extended her visibility for a minute. But she saw zombified Shepherd Alice in the crowd, and it spurred her on, pushing her to move faster than ever. The pit was so large, even though she was running at reckless clip, the sheer mass of zombies slowed her down. By the time she plunged a second tunnel of obsidian, her invisibility was already wearing off. She did the math. She couldn't make it to the final tunnel in time. She was 2 out of the 3 good enough. A single explosion wouldn't destroy many of the zombies, but it would destroy some, whichever poor souls happened to be in the vicinity of the northern tunnel. What if her brother was there? Or her parents? The other answer came to her just pulled the 5th and final arrow of visibility from her inventory. She couldn't stop the explosion. She needed to get the zombies away from it. For that, she needed bait. She let the 5th arrow drop to the ground, unused. She quickly donned her iron armor, tapping her helmet for luck. And then she took a deep breath. "Hey, zombie," she shouted. "Come and get me." It worked. Every zombie in the pit was instantly moving toward her direction. It was like the siege of her village all over again, but exponentially worse. The sheer number of zombies was panic-inducing. She kept her back to the wall and focused on her combat training, staying on the defensive, knocking the mobs back whenever they stepped into range. But she was at a disadvantage, and not only because there was outnumbered, she feared hitting any single zombie more than once, worried about doing any permanent damage to anyone she might be curable. And then that she was struck by an arrow. Ow, she cried, and she scanned for the pit for a source of attack. There's a skeleton hiding among the zombies. She saw a second arrow in time to duck it. The projectile came out of the horde, but from above. She looked up to see Logan seething at her on the balcony. How are you still alive, she said, once through clattering teeth. How do you think you're doing down there? He didn't wait for an answer, firing off a third arrow instead. Bobby dodged it, but stepped right into the swiping claws of a near zombie. Her survival had already been unlikely, now it seemed impossible. Her rhythm was off, and she couldn't hope but avoid raging the melee attacks at the same time. She took another hit, and then another. The armor helped, but not nearly enough. It took only a soak up of the damage. The cold dread settled into Bobby's heart. She knew she couldn't hold out much longer. Then came the explosion. The north side of the pit erupted in a fire and smoke. The zombies turned toward the commotion, distracted, and so did Logan. Bobby tried to slip away. Too slow. The near zombies pressed in on her. They grasped her, they bit, they tore. She pushed herself against the wall so they couldn't come at her in every direction, but she was overwhelmed by sheer numbers, and worse, with the knowledge that she had failed in saving zombies and she had only guaranteed to remain in Logan's clutches. So really, she hadn't saved anyone. Through the horde, she could see Logan leering at her from above. He made no effort to help her. There was no reason she would think he would. But somehow, Bobby found Callus in action more horrifying than the zombies themselves. The undead mobs were only remaining true to their nature, and that would twist a person and make them so monstrous. Suddenly, Logan lurched backward. An arrow had lodged itself in his shoulder. A look of fury settled into his face. "Traitor!" he cried. "What do you think you're doing?" The zombies closest to Bobby were knocked aside, and all of a sudden Ben was standing before her. "I'm doing the right thing," Ben said, and then the words were directed about Logan. His eyes were on Bobby. "What happened?" he asked her, and he quickly faced fences around, giving them enough breathing room. "That wasn't the plan. Be careful with that sword," he warned him. "Some of these zombies are my friends." He let a brief laugh. "I knew you were a zombie lover." Another explosion rang out, and the entire fortress seemed to tremble. "What was that?" cried Logan. "That was your bedroom," Ben called up to him. "If you hurry, you might be able to salvage some of your loot. The stuff I didn't steal, I mean." Ben grimaced. "This isn't over," he said. "You'll both be sorry." He glared at them from above. "You know I always get even." He turned and then ran off. Bobby frowned. "I think you brought that us some time," she said. "But you think you didn't exactly break the style of plundering?" "I know, messing with this stuff wasn't part of the plan," Ben shrugged. "I had some extra TNT and a grudge. And I didn't make me a bad guy, does it?" Before Bobby could answer, a pint-sized zombie leaped into the throng, landing on Ben's back, tearing out his hair. "Johnny," said Bobby. "Ouch," cried Ben. "This is flesh-crazed toddler off me." "Okay, Johnny, it's okay," said Bobby. She pulled her brother off, continual kicking and punching at the air. Then Ben's general direction. "He's our friend. He didn't actually hurt me much." "Ditto," Ben said, rubbing his head. "Now can you please let me out of here?" The zombies pressed against the fence, gnashing their teeth and slamming their fists against the frail wood. "And otherwise, I'm going to end up your zombie friend's terrible case of indigestion. And I don't know if I wouldn't like that." They cut their way through stone, looping around in one of the tunnels they would block off the obsidian. The TNT had done massive damage, but Ben was able to repair the redstone mechanism with Bobby crafted a couple minecarts, which he placed on the rails beyond the blast zone. "Ben, I have a confession to make," said Bobby, and she lowered her brother into one of the carts. "The fee I promised you. I can't pay. I left the emeralds in the chest back where in the mine of gold." "Yeah, I know," said Ben. Bobby was shocked. "You knew? How?" Ben shrugged. "I was keeping an eye on you. I saw you stash them there." "And you stayed anyway?" Bobby smiled. "You could have left us, but you didn't, even knowing I couldn't pay you." She threw her arms around him. "Oh, I knew you were a good person." "Yeah, well," said Ben, "I guess I have a confession to make, too." He held up an emerald. "Once I saw you stash the emeralds, I sort of helped myself to them." Bobby's jaw dropped. You jerk." "Hey," Ben said. "Hold on, your original point still stands. I could have left you two at any point. I already gotten paid." "I guess that's true," said Bobby grudgingly. Ben held off his arms to another hug. "So it's all forgiven?" "Sure," said Bobby, and she shoved him hard against the knocked him into an empty minecart next to Johnny's. Ben laughed, and he saw Bobby put her hand on a redstone torch. "Bobby," he said carefully, "what are you doing?" "You're the only one I could trust to keep him safe," he answered. "We'll keep him safe together," Ben insisted. Bobby shook her head. Beer glistened in her eyes. "Logan's not going to stop, Ben. He's going to take everyone I care about away, across an ocean, and use them to hurt other people. I have to find a way to stop him, to save everyone." She wiped away a single tear. "But I can't keep putting Johnny in danger. He needs to stay far, far away from Logan." "You both do," Ben argued. "You don't know him like I do. He's dangerous." "That's why I have to do this, Ben," she said. And then she activated the switch. "Bobby, stop!" cried Ben, and the minecarts pulled away. Johnny growled mournfully. "Take care of each other," she called back. "Don't stop looking for a cure. I'll see you both again one day." She let herself watch, just for a moment, as Ben and Johnny sped away into the darkness. And then she turned her attention back to the task at hand. Her villager had been destroyed. There was still a chance to save her people who had lived there. And in the end, it wasn't able to make it home. Not a place, but the people. Home wasn't lost to her. She wasn't in her past. It was ahead of her. And she would do anything to save it.
And that is the end of the book. Literally the end of this book. Which is wow, you know? It's a quite sad ending. I forgot that was the ending. I thought something else happened, but I'm mistaking it for another book. But yeah, that was the end of the book. That's the end of our story. So the next time we meet, it's going to be the full version of this book being posted, the full audiobook. If you want to listen to that, that is every single chapter, every single page, in chronological order, in order, etc., etc. And next time after that, we're reading a book for adults. Yep, no more kids' books for like the rest of October because it's spooky month and we have to read a spooky book called The Dollhouse. Ooh, spooky. So yeah, I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. If you like being fishy, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.